Let everybody know where you're watching from. And if you're tuning in for the very first time to Unity Church of the Hills, welcome. We're grateful that you're here. If you're comfortable and want to type the word connect, then one of our volunteers can reach out, let you know a little bit about us, but most importantly, get to know you a little bit more. Before we get started, here's a quick announcement from Reverend Steve Bullen.
Hello, beautiful Unity Church of the Hills family. I'm here today, and I'm looking official, I hope, with my clipboard. You know, they say that an expert is anybody with a clipboard over 50 miles away from home. And as a matter of fact, I'm 1,000 miles away from home, and I have a clipboard. So I want to talk to you just for a moment about the reopening. I know you've all been patient, and you responded quickly to our survey, and I really want to thank you for that. Our staff and board, thank you for that, and our reopening team. You got those responses right back in a hurry, and we needed that, and that was a big, big help. I want to express gratitude to our reopening team, headed up by Linda Hancock and Des King. They've been doing a beautiful job, along with the other participants in that, Ellen Fannin from the board, Hope Rapanner from our congregation, and Neil Fireisel from our congregation. They've been working really, really hard, along with staff and along with the board, to do this reopening piece and to try and do it the best we possibly can. As you can imagine, it's not easy, but we want to do it in such a way that it's as safe as possible and it's as effective and successful as possible. So just a little bit more about that. Our volunteer training will begin soon, and we're going to be able to announce, we think, by midweek of this coming week, around the 9th or 10th, somewhere in there, what our exact reopening date will be. We're looking a couple of weeks ahead and feel like that's all going to work out. Signs are up at the church. You'll see them up, and you'll also see them on the floor. A lot of work has been done in the sanctuary to create the safe distancing piece. You'll also notice lots of other pieces that really are going to enhance the experience for you and make it just as comfortable as possible. So just want to encourage you once again to continue your patience. We're almost there. Appreciate it so much, and we are so excited about seeing many of you again back here at the church, and others who feel more comfortable watching us live stream. So right now, get ready to enjoy the good service. We'll begin with celebration. God bless, and let's have a great Sunday.
There was a time in my life I thought I'd have to do it all for myself. I didn't know the grace of God was sufficient. I didn't know the love of God was at hand. But now I can say, if you're discouraged, struggling just to make it through another day, you've got to let it go. Let it all go. And this is what you have to say. I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I release, and I let go. Let the Spirit
Good morning, Unity Church of the Hills. It is beautiful to be coming to you in your homes. It's also sweet having many of our board of directors right here with us, our board of trustees members and some of their beloveds to help begin this process of getting back to reopening. I want to begin this morning with our mission statement. It's printed on your screen there. Let's say it together with a lot of gusto. We put God first, celebrate life, serve truth, and empower people to transform their lives. Thank you for that. I want to take a moment this morning and honor the memory of Susie Wagers. Susie, a number of you might have seen in the back of the sanctuary in her wheelchair over the years. She was a beautiful being, 55, who made her transition 2 weeks ago. And she came to Austin in early 1990 and was very active in the LGBTQ community here. She was executive director of 2 organizations that were dedicated to those causes, the Texas Human Rights Foundation and the Waterloo Counseling Center. Her beautiful brother, Jeff Wagers, had let us know that she was in her final stages a short time back. And Susie, we send you off with great love and great peace and know that all is well with your precious life. God bless you. I mentioned a moment ago in the prelude to the service a little bit about our reopening. That's a piece that's coming together, and I realize a number of you join us just after we start. So just reminding you that we're getting there. I want to thank you for taking that survey and getting that back in quickly. You'll be hearing more about our reopening soon. We take a moment right now to recognize those who might be joining us for the first time on these broadcasts. We're grateful that you have. We're not quite sure how you might have found us, but probably a friend told you about UCOH. We want to extend to you in this moment our love, acceptance, and appreciation for you. We're grateful that you're here. Now, in the way of an opening prayer this morning, I want us to remember that the basic teaching of unity is that there's one presence and that we are one with that one presence. It's important to remember our authentic power as the authentic power of God. And so as we go into prayer this morning, I ask you to place your left hand over your heart, and as you do, remember and feel that oneness. Loving God, creator of all that is, all that love, all that light, all that peace, and all of that beautiful and highly productive power. We feel that endowment of power within each of us. And as we seek to hold on this Sunday morning a healing for ourselves, a healing for this community, a healing for this nation, we allow ourselves to remember and picture every individual, everyone, from the youngest to the oldest, with their hand over their heart. We see them empowered in that knowing that they are the divine offspring. And as such, they are a representation of love and peace and joy and healing and wholeness in this world. We acknowledge that for ourselves and for them as a great healing wave moves from our hearts to theirs, as that wave moves across this nation and touches with peace and touches with understanding and touches with compassion. We are grateful, God, for this knowing. We allow it to grow in our minds. We allow ourselves to pray from this strength when we pray, and pray in this knowing that truly, beyond all appearances, beyond every appearance, that all is truly well. We pray this prayer in the name and in the nature of that love, and so it is. Amen. It's my great privilege in this moment to introduce a fellow to you that you've heard a great deal about. He is here to speak to us this morning. Dr. Raz Smith is an ordained minister in the Centers for Spiritual Living. Dr. Raz served from 2001 to 2018 as an associate minister at Mile High Church in Denver, where he was the lead facilitator of the Inner Child Journey Ministry, the Dean of Holmes Ministerial Education Institute, the Executive Director and Operations Leader, the Chief Liaison for the construction of the $18 million Roger W. Teal Sanctuary, a piece that I just learned about. The Recovery and Make a Difference Ministry Liaison, in addition to his counseling, speaking, and teaching assignments at Mile High. Dr. Raz has served as the Men's Ministry Liaison and has facilitated and participated in over 24 men's retreats at Mile High and in other parts of this beautiful country. Prior to his ministry, Dr. Raz served as a licensed architect for over 29 years, designing and overseeing $450 million of various construction projects. Dr. Raz continues to facilitate men's retreats in the Inner Child Journey, and fortunately for us, is open to serve as our interim minister. Looking ahead, he'll be spending most of his time with his beautiful wife, Tina, and his grandkids as they plan travel across the U.S. in their RV and cruising the oceans and playing at all the Disney parks they can find. Right where you are and those in the sanctuary, let's welcome to this beautiful place, Dr. Raz. So grateful that he is here, and he will be bringing our meditation, our lesson, and in just a moment. Got the song yet? Let's see.
So they won't see me during the
Let me look at this real quick just to see where we are.
If you haven't had a chance to receive prayer from one of our praying chaplains, we want to encourage you to take advantage of this loving, affirmative service. We have 3 chaplains holding space for us today. They have prayed with the YOU and Uniteens, and they are available following the service to offer affirmative prayer support over the phone. To receive prayer, please call 512-814-5365. We are continuing to collect non-perishable food for Hill Country Community Ministries. Drop-off times are still Tuesday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Thank you to everyone who has contributed. We also want to say thank you to those of you who have been able to come to the grounds and participate in our Planting Intentions program. Many have come out to plant basil in our garden, to draw chalk art prayers, and to take advantage of the beauty our grounds have to offer. You can find out more about our Planting Intentions initiative on our website. If you're looking for some shop therapy, our bookstore is now open Tuesday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. No appointment necessary. We are still limiting the bookstore to 2 shoppers at a time and ask that everyone wear a mask and use hand sanitizer before browsing. If you still prefer online shopping, please consider using our online bookstore at bookshop.org/shop/UCOH. We have planned for our 2020 Kids Summer Camp to be mostly an outdoor garden camp, where day campers learn about gardening plus work hands-on in UCOH's new community garden. We are currently evaluating the state's guidelines to determine if we can hold the camp. Parents, please let Linda Hancock know if you would register your children ages 7 through 14 for this camp if it were to be held. You can reach Linda at linda.hancock@unityhills.org. Registration will open once we know if we can move forward with the camp, and we know there is enough interest to justify moving forward. You're invited to join Unity Chaplains John Fleming and Joni Lorraine at 7 p.m. on Monday, June 15th via Zoom for a conscious conversation. In a powerful space of sacred listening, John and Joni will facilitate a conversation where participants can safely express and reconcile their personal feelings around the topic of race. They are joined this month by professional trainer, facilitator, and UCOH member Robin Llewellyn. As an emotional quotient and certified action learning coach with a long background in training and facilitation, Robin will add her skills to the conversation. Participants will leave with a deeper understanding of what is theirs to do in the face of current circumstances surrounding this topic. You will need to register in advance to receive the Zoom link. Due to the special nature of this conscious conversation, licensed Unity teacher Debbie Cole has moved her Navigating Change class to Tuesday, June 16th and Wednesday, June 17th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Offered for free via Zoom, this class explores how Unity teachings can help us during this time of rapid change. You will need to register in advance in order to receive the Zoom link. Then, the following week, licensed Unity teacher Linda Holmes is offering a free 2-night class on nonviolent communication. If you want to be a peacemaker, you will enjoy this 2-night session based on heart math and Dr. Marshall B. Rosenberg's book, Nonviolent Communication, A Language of Life. Join Linda on June 22nd and 23rd from 7 to 8:30 p.m. And as with the other 2 events, you will need to register in advance. And now, I invite you to relax and settle in as we begin our meditation led by Dr. Raz Smith.
What an honor it is to be asked to lead the meditation as my first act as a minister at this beautiful spiritual home. So please just gently close your eyes with me as we move into a time of mindfulness and meditation. I invite you to be in that place that is comfortable for you, and I know being online often myself, that includes lifting the leg of the recliner. So if that is your situation, I invite you to get comfortable and just to allow your awareness to move to your breath, to notice your breath as you gently inhale and gently exhale, and taking another nice, easy breath in. Allow yourself to exhale any anxiety or stress. And in this space of calm, I invite you to imagine right now, if you will, that you are sitting by your favorite stream or river. Perhaps the warm sun is shining and the birds are singing, and you are sitting in your favorite log or bench. And just once again, noticing your breath. And in this perfect, safe, and comfortable space, I invite you to allow that stress, fear, or worries to come to your awareness, knowing that they need not stay with you. And in this time, to allow these troubles to be released. I invite you to imagine that they are now shaped and molded into the form of a dissolvable paper sailboat. Just imagine creating that and molding it into that form. And once you have done that, created your sailboat, I invite you to gently place this sailboat out onto the stream, the river. And just watch as this boat gently sails away with all your worries. And in the distance, you notice that it is slowly dissolving into the nothingness from which it came, leaving you in a place of freedom, of peace from those worries in this very moment. So once again, allow yourself to notice your breath, the ease of your inhale, and the peace you feel with every exhale. Literally the breath of God breathing through you right now. And I invite you to notice your surroundings, the bench or log that is supporting you, this beautiful stream or river. Allow yourself to hear those birds, to feel the warmth of the sun and the clear blue sky. And know that you can return here at any time if any worries or concerns arise again, and know that you will be open to peace. And now, with your next breath, allow yourself to feel that freedom, that sense of peace, as you slowly exhale and gently open your eyes and return your awareness to this time together. Namaste and peace.
Our worship and our praise is shifting the atmosphere till the heavens are open. This praise is shifting the atmosphere for a breakthrough in healing. Our worship is shifting the atmosphere. It's moving, it's breaking. This worship is shifting the atmosphere. Every yoke is destroyed, every chain is broken. This worship is shifting the atmosphere. It's moving, it's breaking. Our worship is shifting the atmosphere till the heavens are open for a breakthrough in your healing. This worship is shifting the atmosphere. It's moving, it's breaking, Our worship is shifting the atmosphere. Oh, it's moving, and it's breaking. My praise is shifting the atmosphere. Every yoke will be destroyed. Every chain is broken. This worship is shifting the atmosphere. I feel it moving. It's breaking. Our praise is shifting the atmosphere. It's moving, and it's breaking. This worship is shifting the atmosphere. This worship is shifting the atmosphere.
Wow, that was amazing music. Thank you so much, Celebration. You're awesome. I was listening to rehearsal and I wanted to clap the whole time. I finally got a chance to do that. Thank you so much. And Reverend Steve, thank you so much for the introduction. I actually got a little tired while you were talking about all the things I was doing. I forgot. Having been retired the last 2 years, but I just whispered to him that it feels good to be back in the saddle, and feels just like I stopped yesterday. But I also want to thank the Board of Trustees who happen to be experimenting out here several rows away from me in case I spit, I guess. So that's good. We want to keep our social distance to be sure, and I really want to thank both the Board of Trustees and the amazing staff here at Unity Church of the Hills. It feels like I've been here for weeks, but I've only been here 2 days, and we've had a great time getting to know each other, and I just thank you for the hospitality. It's been very real and very touching, so thank you very much. And of course, I've had an opportunity to just see a little bit of Austin, and I love it here. It's a little warmer than Colorado, just a little. And I live at 7,500 feet, and we just had snow a couple of weeks ago. So it's a little different here, but that's okay. And before I begin my talk, I want to tell you that I, like many of you, have had to adjust our plans because of the COVID-19. I was actually supposed to be flying back from Amsterdam today. That didn't work out that way. So the good news, I got 98% of my money back, and life is great. But I wouldn't have been here to accept Dr. Rogers' call at the request of the Board of Trustees to see if I would be interested in coming out of retirement and potentially being a interim minister here. And, you know, it took my breath away for a minute. I wasn't expecting that kind of a call. And, but you know, I told Dr. Roger, let me just pray on it, be with it for a few days. And what I got in prayer, I want to explain by sharing this little quote from Charles Fillmore, who I'm sure many of you are familiar with. I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm and spring forth with a mighty faith to do the things that ought to be done by me. And that was the answer I got, was yes. You know, it was capital letter Y-E-S, yes. And, you know, I thought it was so coincidental that wonderful being, Jean Leans, led the 8 o'clock service today and talked about yes and getting that yes and how the universe is a yes and all we have to do is open to it. Well, it was unexpected, but that's how I feel. And Dr. Roger would be the first to tell you, after working with me for 17 years, that I am Mr. Enthusiasm. If you haven't already picked up on that. So, you know, as a minister of the Centers for Spiritual Living, when I first became a minister, it was still called Religious Science, and apparently that was too confusing for a lot of people, so we changed our name to Centers for Spiritual Living, and I have been a minister for 17 years. But, you know, one of the things I loved about New Thought teachings is how we would study all the churches in New Thought. And I remember studying Unity. And I had the opportunity to go to Unity Village, and as an architect for 29 years, I just loved the place. I loved being in the office where Charles and Myrtle did their work. And, you know, after studying unity, and then I ordered 3 books off Amazon. That's what you do these days. And I've already gotten partway through the 5 principles, and I've got the 12 powers to read next. So here's what I'm noticing is we all seem to talk a lot of the same material, but what I'm noticing is like a new wrapping paper. So I feel like a kid, opening new presents, and wow, this is a new way to say that. I love that. So it's just a joy to be here. And of course, as you know, I've been affected by COVID-19 and the horrific killing of George Floyd, as you all have these past few weeks and months on the COVID-19. These are challenging times, and I've been watching Reverend Steve online, and he's done a great job speaking to the tools that I think we can all use, spiritual tools, during this time. And I am so grateful to have New Thought teachings at the very core of my being to learn what my response should be. And so that's how I chose my message today, Spiritual Equation for Challenging Times. When I first told Frank the title, he wanted to know what the equation was, Mr. Engineer, S plus R equals O. Well, I'm going to tell you all what it is. It's an equation that I did not create. It came from a good friend of mine, Greg Cortopassi, who would work with our staff at Mile High Church. And it is simply this: situation plus response equals the outcome. We don't always get to choose the situation, but we always get to choose our response. And therein lies all the difference. So that's what I want to talk about today. And as I mentioned in the online video, because I thought this was an opportunity for you to get to know me and see if I am a fit for being an interim minister here. And so what I wanted to share with you is some of my own path. So what I said online was that, these New Thought principles really were at the core of my recovery in addiction, 25 years of being out in the field doing research on how one can alter their experience. And so I did that. And then from my own healing from bone marrow cancer, which just happened to coincide with my retirement. And of course, like many of you, I didn't know I was in the driver's seat for the first half of my life. I had no clue that I was creating my life with God. I didn't know that. And by the way, that is the way it works. Whether you know it or not, that's what's happening. And of course, I thought life was happening to me and that I was at the whim of a moody God. That was kind of the upbringing I was brought up with. It was kind of like God was like Santa Claus, making a list, checking it twice, seeing who's naughty or nice, and I knew that I was naughty. So I didn't know that that was going to go very well if I kept subscribing to that moody God. So now, today, I'll celebrate 27 years of sobriety, July 25th, and yeah, thank you. Now, I've been part of the virtual recovery community on Facebook these last many months, and it's been awesome because somebody has a birthday every day. I mean, it's just touching. And then, of course, 33 years of New Thought with my wife, and all of that has completely changed my thinking. So I am a walking, talking human of possibility at this point, and I realize that I can take any situation and actually create a great life with God as a co-pilot. And, recently I took a Zoom class. I know you've been doing Zoom classes around here. We're all really getting good at Zoom. And that's pretty funny because as the dean, we used Zoom in our classes. So I had a student who was in Berlin who was able to take ministerial classes. So that was pretty cool. He's now a minister. But anyway, the Zoom class I took, Dr. Michelle Madrano, one of the lead ministers at Mile High, took Brene Brown's book, Rising Stronger, and we had this 3-week online class, and I went, that is S plus R equals O. She's talking about situation plus response equals the outcome, but she's using different language, and I'm pretty good at interpreting language, so I loved it. And what she talked about is what she refers to as the 3 R's. If you've read the book, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you haven't read the book, I know the bookstore is open for drive-through, so do that. But anyway, she talks about, instead of reading, writing, and arithmetic, which are good things, she talks about reckoning, rumbling, and revolution. And I went, yeah, that's it. And you know what? The first one, reckoning, is realizing that we are not our situation, that isn't what defines us. You know, alcoholism wasn't who I was. It was an experience I was having. It didn't define the situation. Of course, I didn't know that I was a walking situation. I often at AA meetings would wonder why I was the last to know. But everybody else knew, apparently. But it did take a while to realize and come to reckon with that I was a person just experiencing addiction and that the wreckage of my life could change. And trust me, there was a lot of wreckage. We won't go into that today, but it was a mess. Or, of course, the situation that I had to come to reckon with on December 15th of 2017 when I had a spontaneous fracture of my left femur. And most people's femur just has, maybe a dime size opening, and mine was like, a baseball. And the cancer had eaten away my femur, so it just broke spontaneously. That's probably more detail than you wanted. But what I found out on December 15th is I had this little thing called multiple myeloma. It is bone marrow cancer. And they told me that it was incurable and that there was no guarantee I was going to live more than 6 months. Well, if you did do the arithmetic, you realize it's been a little bit longer than 6 months, so apparently that isn't the way that was going to work. I loved this. In early recovery, I still resonate with these words from Eric Butterworth. He said, "The great wisdom of the ages still lies locked in the depths of our mental capacity. The great possibility of health and healing lies undiscovered in the depths of our inner life, and the great key to success lies within our undiscovered potential." I want you to know that when I was coming out of the wreckage of my past, I didn't feel real good about myself. So the first time I heard these words, I went, really? Me? I could do that? And again, what was the answer? It was yes, of course. And then, I love that Gene did that talk this morning at 8 o'clock because I so resonated with it and the message I had prepared for you all today. And then I found this story from Eric, same book, about a man who had gotten a diagnosis very similar to mine, an incurable disease with 6 months to live. He went to work the next day, and everyone commiserated with him. And by the way, you do get a lot of that when you have those sort of things and you let people know. But they were asking him what he would do now. And I so resonate with what he said. He says, "I am going to do what I've always done. I'm going to live with a grateful heart, one day at a time." Well, what I realized, both from addiction recovery and cancer recovery, is a day was a long time. So I have coined this phrase for myself. It's probably the title of a book if I ever write it, and that is changing your life one thought at a time. Because that's what I had to do. I had to take my life and change my thinking. I had to change it one thought at a time. And of course, this is what he ended with. He said, of course, he lived 10 years beyond that moment that he heard that story. What his life showed was that gratitude is not a reactionary emotion, but rather a causative energy. Let that sink in for a moment. It's not just thanking somebody for a gift, but being open to receive the gifts of life in every moment. And that's such a powerful thing to do. The next R is rumbling. Man, rumbling is happening, isn't it? It's all over us right now. You know, it started in this country, but it's all over the world now. It's amazing. This is where we get to own the stories, Brene Brown says, about the current situation. It's the stories we wrap around it. And the stories are changing. That's what's great about rumbling. You know, in 12-step, the rumbling happens when you start doing your 4-step inventory. And you start going, oh, did I do that? You know, really? I did that? And then you get to make amends for it. You get to seek out those people that you might have harmed, if it's not going to harm them further, to make amends. You know, it's the most powerful thing to do is to go sit with your ex-wife and make amends. That's a powerful moment. And then, of course, what I thought was really interesting during the rumbling around the cancer, I didn't have a lot of rumbling. You know, both my parents had cancer, but I just knew that that's not the end. That's just a situation. You know, and what's my response? From the very first day, I had no fear. I just said, what is mine to do? What do you need me to do? And then, of course, they told me, and I didn't have any appreciation for chemotherapy and radiation when it was first described to me, but trust me, I have deep appreciation. So I know members of this spiritual community, any of you who have ever gone through that, I feel it. I know it. I've been there, and it sucks. You know? It's not something I would wish on anybody. I'm glad I did it because it took care of the situation, you know? And but I tell you, it was difficult. But the good news, and I kept telling my doctors and my nurses this, as they would tell me what the next step was, I said, well, that's okay. I have a great prayer partners, and we'll just apply the secret sauce. And they just love that. You know, it's like, what? And of course, I would teach them in that moment what New Thought teachings would say, that I have a part in this, that I can, through what Joe Dispenza calls evolve your brain. And so every day and every night, I listened to Joe Dispenza's morning and evening meditations. So I was feeding myself new ideas and possibilities. And then, of course, rumbling is what's been going on in our culture. It's unprecedented. You know, COVID-19 took us to our knees. And then the horrific death of George Floyd just put us flat on our face. It was like, wow, I had no idea. For some of us, especially if we hang out in places like this that embrace all people, all cultures, all sexual orientation, races, religions, it's like, wow, is that still going on? How can that be? Of course, my black friends are like, duh. You know, I live with it every day. And I tell you what, it hurts to realize that the things I take for granted are things that bring up fear in people of color. It's like, wow. So my prayer is that we take this time to make a difference. I was so moved by George Floyd's 6-year-old daughter. She's clearly got some people around her that are talking to her. But she said, my daddy is changing the world. And I went, yeah, amen. And if we miss this opportunity, that will be sad. That'll be a tragedy. But I was so touched when I was reading about Paris having these huge protests and people around the world. I thought, wow, this is an opportunity for us. Talk about a rumbling that's going to make a difference. I think that's what's going on. And with what we know in this teaching, it is our opportunity to practice what we teach and preach and know to be true and become voices in the wilderness. You know, Dr. King said these wonderful words, And it's not just another white guy repeating Dr. King. I totally believe this. He said, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. He said, hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. I think, and it's the third R from Brené Brown, I think we are ready for a revolution of love. And you know, it's not the same kind of revolution. It's not guns and ammunition and all that kind of stuff. It's flowers and embrace, and that's why it'll be nice to get this community back together. Although it's great to see all your pictures, by the way, for those of you not here in the sanctuary. It'll be great to see this community and my home community of Mile High Church getting back together again so we can see ourselves face to face and eye to eye and realize what is ours to do. Find that common ground where we can have that revolution of love. This is what I wrote on the revolution. After the reckoning and the rumble of owning my own stuff, we now get to choose our response. That's why I say a revolution of love. You know, in Dr. Joe's evening meditation that I listened to every night in my bed, trust me, I was getting very tired of being in the bedroom. You know, it was my world for like 3 months because I couldn't move because of given the opportunity to be stationary for 14 weeks. Doesn't feel like that, I know, when you're doing it, but boy, it was great. But here's what I would hear from him every night. He said, I would hear that I need to create a vision of my future that is no longer based on the memories of my past. He said, you need to create a vision of your future no longer anchored in the memories of your past. That's our opportunity today in any situation. That's the response. That's the revolution of love. I don't know that we have given love enough of a chance. Wasn't that John Lennon? Didn't he say that? Give love a chance, give peace a chance. So I am clear right now that that is why I am 26 months free of cancer, that they said I wouldn't live past 6 months. I've had, You know, I am walking, talking, healing manifestation is the bottom line. Loving life and having a great life. I envisioned watching my grandkids graduate from high school. They will turn 5 and 3 this fall. So I'm going to live for a long time. So, you know, I'm going to be around. When I did practitioner training, we had to do our own eulogy, and I picked 92 and a half. I got a ways to go, so I'm good. So I am clear, not only in my own life, but in the life of this community and the life of Austin, of the state of Texas, this amazing country where we do have some freedom to express what we think, and we can disagree. And we are going to learn to do that even more peacefully. I'm clear that the revolution of love is what will heal the pandemic. You know, we're going to figure it out. You know, 10 years ago, they didn't know what to do with bone marrow cancer. 8 years ago, they figured it out. I have good timing. You know, I came up with it after they'd figured it out. So, you know, that works out. But I also think it will help us heal racism in our country and in our world. I love to travel because I love cultures. My bachelor's degree is in sociology and anthropology, and I just love cultures and understanding why they are who they are, and you know, just feeling that and experience it. And then I stumbled across New Thought. But I think that's what's going to heal. These situations can be a memory. We can choose a response that is the vision of our future and an outcome of love for all. That's the revolution I want to be part of. As the master teacher Jesus said, and these words always touch me, these things and even greater things can you do. I know that it's possible It's possible in every one of us, in every situation. You know, in Unity and in New Thought, we were prepared for such a time as this. This is the time to stand up, to be what we teach, more so than ever. You know, we know, because I've read it, that the third principle of unity says that we can co-create with God. And I say we can co-create a great life for everyone. One of the Centers for Spiritual Living, their shared common values is to create a world that works for everyone, no one left out. That's the revolution of love. We can create that. We can create it right here in this community because there are principles and beliefs and values of inclusivity, of joy, of love and possibility. I say we start right now. I don't think there's a better time than right in this moment. And I asked Reverend Steve if it was okay for me to pray, and he said, "You betcha." I'm from Minnesota. That would have been, "Yeah, sure, you betcha." So if you, in that joyful laughter, just close your eyes with me for a moment, sit back in the recliner at home, and allow yourself to feel the presence of the infinite source, that co-pilot, that co-director of our lives, that co-creator in which we mix our ideas and best thoughts to create a great life. I know that I am connected at the very core of my being with that infinite source right in this very moment. And I know that's true for everyone in this sanctuary and all of you watching this service online. Because I know there is no limit to our connection, that wherever we are right now, we are one. We are a spiritual community that believes in uplifting life, being the great example, the Christ within us stepping forward and being the most vibrant human we can be on the planet. And so I know that there is an amazing healing that's already taking place right in this moment, both in me and in all of you. I know that whatever condition, situation that you might be facing right now, it is not who you are. It's just an opportunity to grow. And so I know the response is love. The response is possibility. The response is beauty, truth, love, justice. And that is the reality right in this very moment. So I give thanks for it. I absolutely live a life of gratitude and feel that gratitude within my being right now. And it is from that place that I release these words to that universal mind, the all mind, the God mind, knowing that as words are spoken, as the master teacher Jesus said, that they come into reality, and they are so, and so I let it be, and so it is. Amen. All right, one of my joyful times as a minister has always been to share the sharing of tithes, gifts, and offerings. You know, when I met with Reverend Steve and the Board of Trustees, what I was touched by was their gratitude for the support of this spiritual community and how it has continued these many months when you couldn't be together. Not in person, you're together, just not in person. And the impact of this spiritual community continues, and your gifts have allowed us to get to the point where within the next few weeks, these pictures will go away and your smiling faces behind masks will be back right here in the sanctuary, and that will just be a joy. You know, my wife Tina and I first stepped into a New Thought church in 1987, and I want to quote Eric Butterworth again because it just impacted me. I was one of those people in the back of the sanctuary, and it took a crowbar to get $5 out of my wallet. And what I learned when I took my first class in a religious science church, it was Eric Butterworth's Spiritual Economics. Beautiful piece. And he said this: prosperity is a way of living and thinking not just money or things, Because the truly prosperous person is one who experiences, as Jesus said, the life more abundant. It was like that day it changed. It was not a chore. It was a joy. So if indeed you do choose me as a liaison minister, if I haven't totally alienated anybody, will be good. And what's going to happen if I end up here is me and my wife have already talked about this. Any money I make here gets given right back to the church in a tithe. And, we'll take our expenses out of it, but we believe in it. It's a joyful thing that we do, and I encourage you now, this is the time when you get the opportunity. That's what I always call it. It's an opportunity to be in the field of the law of circulation. So I think there it is. Wonderful things. You can text. Isn't that amazing? We've all learned how to do this more and more. You can text, you can give online, you can use the app, and I know that snail mail is still happening. So you can do that. So what I'd like to do now is, I don't know what you all do, but how about if we stand, those of you in the room? And what I'd like you to do is just, if you have your tithe, your gift, or offering in your hand, I just invite you to put it over your heart and to give it your love, because it makes an incredible difference here at Unity Church of the Hills. It will today. It will continue to do so. This is an awesome gem in the universe. So let's say our blessing together. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I circulate. And I am grateful. And so it is. Mm-hmm.
Into your eyes, show you don't need to hide behind disguise. Spread your wings, you're terrified. Don't be afraid, you're born to fly. I'm by your side. I am enough. I am golden, baby. I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. I am golden, baby. I am enough. I am enough. Ooh, oh, yeah. I am enough. I am enough. Ooh, oh, yeah. I am enough. I am enough. Little girl, it's all right. You've taken the blame. Enough. Little boy, don't hide. You've been ashamed. Enough. One day I'll look into your eyes, show you don't need to hide behind disguise. Spread your wings, you're terrified. Don't be afraid, you're born to fly. I'm by your side. I am enough. I am golden, baby. I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. I am golden, baby. I am enough. I am enough. Ooh, oh, yeah. I am enough. I am enough. Enough. If I can feel this, or this emotion, is it poison, or will I grow Can you feel this? Or am I broken? Hear me screaming, make me whole. I am enough. I am golden, baby. I am enough. I am enough. You are enough. You are golden, baby. You are enough. You are enough. Hey, we are enough. We are golden, baby. We are enough. We are enough. We are enough. We are golden, baby. We are enough. We are enough. We are enough.
I want to thank you for that beautiful music. And Dr. Raz, I want to thank you for that beautiful gift. Bless you. Thank you. We are so blessed. Parents, don't forget that there are a great many resources and ways to connect with our youth and family ministry. If you need assistance, please contact our Director of Youth and Family, Linda Hancock. And right now, we're going to take this opportunity to bless our children. We know that they're listening at home. We're sure attentively at the screen, or maybe running around in the yard, whatever it might be. But our blessing reaches them and touches them right where they are. Let's repeat and feel our blessing together. Children, youth, angels, and teachers, we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the Christ you are. We take a moment now and we send that blessing out to touch the heart and mind of every child, everywhere, every when. And so it is, and we are grateful. Once again, I want to thank you for your generous giving at our beautiful church, and I love the way that Dr. Raz moved through that piece. He reminded us of what a great gift we have here in this beautiful ministry, but also the great gift we have in giving and then opening ourselves to receive. Thank you, and God bless you. Right after the service ends today, we will have a Meet the Minister session. Dr. Raz and I will be out here with Tammy to kind of guide us along, and you're encouraged to send in questions. Tammy will speak to that in just a few minutes, but be sure and stick around and learn even more about this beautiful man. Right now, let's end with our prayer for protection. I encourage you to speak it with gusto. Together, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Thank you, God bless you, and we'll see you very soon.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Meet the Minister. We're going to have an opportunity to get to know Dr. Raz a little bit better. Reverend Steve is going to ask some questions. If we get any here on Facebook, I'll ask those. So if you have questions for Dr. Raz, go ahead and submit them. And then if the board members have a question, they're going to hand those off to Frank Phelan, and he'll be able to ask those of the board. If it's all right, people have already posted a question, so how about I just go ahead and start right there.
Good.
So let me scroll back here. So Susan asks, she says, I believe in your introduction, it was mentioned that you did an inner child ministry. And so Susan would like to know a little bit more about that.
Sure. In 1987, we went to Pikes Peak Church of Religious Science in Colorado Springs. I wasn't real interested in a church. I was kind of off church at the time. I only went because they had an inner child journey ministry. And a good friend of mine talked about it, and I had just finished a John Bradshaw workshop at the Broadmoor in Colorado Springs, so I was curious. I wanted to know more about it. Well, we went to a Wednesday night service because that was safer, and and a lot of music and not too much minister. And but I just fell in love with the teaching, what I heard from New Thought. So I didn't do the inner child journey for 2 years, but once I did it, I fell in love again. And what I realized, this is really about the reckoning and the rumbling, is the tools of the inner child journey really allow us to, what I would say, refine our emotional maturity. And emotional intelligence, emotional maturity, for those of you that understand those terms, I think that's just such a great quality in expanding your life. And so in 1988, I did my first inner child journey. I think in 1995, I started facilitating it. So when I was hired at Mile High Church, I was already on the team that had trained Dr. Roger to facilitate it at Mile High. So he saw all that, besides being an architect. And so he hired me right out of school, and I facilitated at Mile High Church and still do. I am training one of their ministers to do it in case I'm traveling or in Austin or something. So it's a beautiful work, and, we can talk about it some more. It's very powerful. And I'm sure, because I know me, I can't help but share about it. It changed my life.
Thank you, Dr. Raz.
Sure.
So it looks like we've got more questions coming in, but while I look at them, first off, let me just say thank you for your eagerness with your questions. I can't guarantee we're going to get to all of them. While I look through them, Reverend Steve, do you have a question or?
More of a comment.
Okay, perfect.
I think some of the folks that have heard me talk about you, Dr. Raz, realize that Mary and I met you at Mile High.
Right.
You were there to show us around the campus.
Right.
And I thought at the time, what a wonderful man, what a neat guy. Now, when it was mentioned by Dr. Teal that he was suggesting to you that you consider the piece as our interim minister, I have to tell you, I got chills. Because I saw in you a man who is so dedicated to these teachings and who came to these teachings not as Dr. Roger did as a young man, but as a middle-aged guy after having a career that was much the way it was for me. And I guess one of the questions I've got is, what did you bring from your discipline as an architect to this work and to New Thought that helps you express the way you do?
In ministerial school, we are invited to create a vision statement, one that you can remember and say to people whenever they ask you, what is your vision for the ministry? Well, I spent one frustrating weekend sitting, and nothing came up. And, that's the way Spirit is sometimes. So I was near Independence Pass, if you're familiar with that at all, in Colorado. Mm-hmm. And finally I said, heck with it. I'm just going to go to the hot springs in Glenwood. And so as I was going over Independence Pass, I heard this, pull over. And I'm looking around, who's talking to me? Well, it says, write this down. And I never did because it was so easy for me to remember. And it was a vision statement that encompassed everything I did as an architect and everything that I knew I was going to do as a minister. Whew. But it was this simple, and that was, you are here to create living and loving environments. Living and loving environments. And, as an architect, I created universities, and my last project was this library and student center at the University of Colorado. And then, of course, I got hired by Dr. Roger and created the new sanctuary. And, of course, that scared the architect and the contractor because some minister was going to help them build this $18 million sanctuary, and little did they know at the beginning that I was a registered architect. So I think, to me, I'll answer another part of that question, and that is, how about going from an architect to a minister? I was telling Frank this weekend, it wasn't as tough as you think. I have been visualizing things completed long before they ever came out of the ground.
Absolutely.
I took the entire 300 practitioner core at Mile High Church out into the parking lot that became the sanctuary, and we were in a big circle, and I invited them to all close their eyes and take a trip into the new sanctuary with me. So I guided them through that, and some of them came to me on opening day, April 6, 2008, and said, "It looks just like you envisioned." I said, "Well, that's what I've been doing for 30 years." So when I found Science of Mind and New Thought, it was easy.
Yeah.
I said, "I've been doing this, I've been living it,
Sure.
and I've been doing it in retirement. You know, I did it with cancer. We can do it with anything. We can change the world."
Amen.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a quick one. I've been asked by 2 people if you could repeat what you said about creating a future without the memory of the past, the Dr. Joe work.
Sure. You know,
They want
this,
to write it down.
I
So
understand.
Get your pens ready.
Yeah, well, we'll see if I remember it. But I did listen to it for 14 weeks, so I'm pretty sure I can. And by the way, this is really easy to get. It's an affordable meditation. I highly encourage it.
Very
I bet they have it
powerful.
in the bookstore. But it's called Morning and Evening Meditations. So every night, just before I would drift off into sleep, he would say, "I invite you to release the memories of your past and create the vision of your future." Create the vision of your future. I may not have all the words perfect because my notes are over there. And Reverend Steve would understand this. Once you give a sermon, it's like, what did I say? But it is release the memories of your past, because we can live from the past.
Right.
That's what the inner
Beautiful
child
past.
journey does, by the way. I always know relationship back to it. But, you know, creating the vision of your future. So I spent those sleeping nights envisioning myself with a future with no cancer. I have not had cancer since show up on any scope whatsoever since 2 months before my bone marrow transplant.
Beautiful.
That's
Thank you.
beautiful.
Thank you. Does the board have a question? Just want to go there first before I go back to the questions online. And so we're going to have Frank Phelan. If you'll stand up and actually look at the camera just so the folks can see you asking the question, or maybe stand sideways, something like that. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you. Is the mic on? Can you all
There
hear
you
me?
go.
Okay. All right. So first I'd like to just acknowledge having been involved with this process of pursuing different alternatives and being led as a board and as a community to this point where we are right now, to fully acknowledge the number of improbabilities that have occurred to get us to this very moment. I'm excited at so many things that are coming to the fore. We've had some time to talk and time to spend with each other, and I love the idea of a formulaic spiritual manifestation. And I'm curious to use the formula that you just laid out, the situation and the response and the outcome, with regard to what you've been able to experience so far and through your conversations with us and with the staff. What do you see around that for Unity Church of the Hills in terms of our current situation, the response, and outcome potential? That's a heavy-duty item, I know, and maybe just a summary of that would be good, but that's really it, because that's what we're looking at, this next 6-month period. Where are we going with that? And so I think people might appreciate that.
You bet. I know that I've given the board and Reverend Steve and staff a bit of that response. But it's a great question, and if I am selected to be the interim minister, it will be my sole passion to prepare us to receive. You know, because if you've heard this before in classes about relationships, is you want to be the husband, the wife, the partner that you want to draw into your life. I suggest we be the community that will receive that perfect senior minister who will catapult us into our next divine expression, whatever that is. This is a beautiful campus. You know, the very first thing I did when I got here is I drove my Mini Cooper over to the Labyrinth. I walked around, and then Reverend Steve gave me a tour, and I'm empathic with buildings and communities. I can walk around and feel the love here. I can feel the possibilities. And I know COVID-19 has been, for everybody, a major inconvenience, to say the least. But I wouldn't be here if that hadn't happened. So the invitation is always to realize that Spirit works in amazing ways to provide the opportunities and the ways for us to receive that which we desire. So I think Dr. Roger, I'm pretty sure, is working with the board and everyone here to craft that perfect receiving energy, documentation, invitation. And, that perfect minister is, right there.
Amen.
I'm about to buy a house, closer to my grandkids. And that's what we do. We have good house karma. I mean, really. We swapped houses with a congregant at Pikes Peak Church. They wanted a house just like ours, and we wanted a house just like theirs. And we just did this. Literally the same moving day. So, you know what? I always feel for the people in the neighborhoods that I drive around because they probably think I'm, whatever they call that, stalking them. But I've driven by this house that we like, and I say, I don't think they know they're moving yet. So there's a minister out there that may not yet be aware that this is the perfect stage. This is the beautiful community that they have been looking for. Know that with me, know it for yourselves, and prepare to receive.
Amen.
How's that?
Amen.
Does that
I
work?
love it. Beautiful.
And I'm here, that's my sole purpose, is to serve and I'll have fun doing it. You probably saw that already. I told Steve it's like back in the saddle again. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I only walked away because I had to get my health back, and it's back. I'm good.
Sweet.
More questions?
Yeah, so this is kind of getting to know you a little bit more.
Sure.
This one comes from my wife. What has surprised you the most about your calling in ministry?
I think how much fun it is. The calling, and this time it came from Roger, but originally it came from Spirit, which is Roger in motion, right? But I was surprised at the second yes. It was as much, if not more powerful than the initial yes to the calling in 1997. Might have even been sooner. Well, I know it was sooner. Actually, I was going to be a priest. I was called to the ministry at 8 years old. But, that wasn't quite the right place, time, theology, all of that. Long story, it'll come out in a sermon sometime. But you know what? The calling never went away. It was, I might even be able to remember it. The calling I got at 8 years old to be a priest at a church in northern Minnesota because I wanted to make a difference in the world and to create a living and loving community. So, never went away. And even in retirement, we go to churches when we go to Europe. Can't help ourselves. No. And I love being a congregant, by the way, at Mile High. There's nothing like sitting out in the congregation and heckling when it's appropriate. So there you go.
I do have some more questions
Okay.
here, but I want to just check in, Reverend Steve. Is there
You
a
know,
burning question
I'd
you
love it
have,
if
or-
you'd comment on Tina, and I know folks will want to know if she might be able to
Sure.
stop in from time to
question.
time.
Yes, that is exactly it, time to time. She'll be here, if I'm hired, she'll be here the first weekend. I think that's July 5th is the first Sunday. And she's going to drive one of our cars down when I drive my RV. And then she'll be here that weekend, but then she has to fly home because we had hail damage on our house that we're about to sell, and they're doing the last thing. So she needs to be there to orchestrate the window replacement. But she'll be coming back and forth. As I told you, we're getting ready to sell our house. So that was already in motion before, any of this I knew about. So she's going to do that, and she's already said that, once the house sells, and I'll probably fly back to help move because I would like to make it to our 36th wedding anniversary. So that might be a weekend I take off and help move us into the new house. And then once that happens, she said, I wouldn't mind coming and just being here the rest of the year, for most of it. So that's what's going on. And more about Tina. Hi, Tina. I said I'd say hi.
Aww.
She's watching right now. That's
Hi,
what you
Tina.
do when you first learn you're on camera. Hi. No, she's a beautiful woman. We've been married 35 years. The trip to Europe was part of our 35th anniversary gift to ourselves. And she is a practitioner of religious science, practitioner emeritus. She's been a practitioner 25 years. She married an architect. She didn't marry a minister, so wow. She put up with that, as you know, with Mary. But she's a beautiful woman, very spiritual, and still very much in demand as a practitioner.
Beautiful. Thank you. And Tammy, I noticed Ellen's hand up, so
I saw that.
Okay.
Well, Dr. Raz, thank you so much for the message this morning and for being here and for your wonderful sense of humor. I love it. I know that you were the dean of the ministerial school, and I would really like to know what you feel are essential qualities for a senior minister.
Sure. I would love to talk about that. I was the dean for 6 years. I successfully graduated 35 ministers who are working in the field right now. And I think the most important qualifications, and I shared this with you already, so it feels like a planted question, but it's true. Leadership skills are key. Both leadership, because as a senior minister in any congregation, you're kind of the CEO. So you work with the staff, the music team, the board of trustees, everybody. So you need to have skills to be able to provide that leadership. But the second and most important skill that I actually left my successor with and all the other deans of Centers for Spiritual Living is we need to find a good way to measure emotional maturity.
Amen.
I think it is the single most important quality to ask of a minister and to have in a minister. Because, sometimes the things we say up here on the platform rub people the wrong way. Because we're pushing on old beliefs and old stories. And so, thick skin, an ability to process the information, to be gracious, to be able to be kind and compassionate and loving, even when the situations present themselves is very challenging and difficult. So I probably believe that more now than ever. And I left them with that task in ministry school, is to find tools and classes and instructors to teach that.
Beautiful.
So there you go.
Well, and just so this doesn't feel like a one-way conversation for you, I just want to share a lot of people are loving your sense of humor.
Oh, good.
A lot of those comments. And one person would like to see your entire tie because they
Sure.
think it's very sharp. So we
Not a
don't want to
problem.
lose
Beautiful
that.
tie.
Now, here's the good news.
Very nice.
That's Jerry Garcia is what all these are. And the only regret I have of retirement, because I never thought I'd be on the platform again. Roger was astonished that I did this, but I gave away 24 of my ties to the music team at Mile High Church. So I don't have the heart to go back and ask them for those ties back. But, I have plenty. I saved the best, and this is my favorite, actually. But I have plenty.
Nice.
So we're all good. And, if we make it, if I speak on enough Sundays before Christmas, the Christmas ties might come out sooner than normal. Unless I buy a few more, which I probably will.
Fabulous. So I did have one person that wanted to know a little bit more about some of the healing work you might do for the congregation. Any thoughts that you have around that? I know you've already spoken about the
Sure.
inner child journey, but...
Right. I think there is so much that can be done. One of the things I think I've shared with several people is I intend to bring with me when I come back the spirituality and recovery model that I started that meeting in Denver at Mile High. And then I partnered with Carol Wilkie, who is taken over one of my old jobs. I hired her, and she's already become the executive director, so very cool. I feel really good about that because I spotted in her just what was needed. But she really amped up the program. And I think I shared with Frank, it's not a replacement for AA or any of the 12-step groups. I would call it a new thought and. You can do your 12-step meeting and go to a spirituality and recovery meeting, and that's healing because the things you hear from us on Sundays or from Gene, in that 8 o'clock meditation, these are the quotes we use in that. There's no such thing as conference-approved material. It's all approved. So that's one. There is the healing of the inner child journey, but, there's so many different ones. I relied on my colleagues to do some of the work. So Reverend Cynthia James created a wonderful workshop that we could talk about whether to bring her here, but it's called What Will Set You Free, and it's healing work around abuse, abuse of any kind. I would do the inner child journey, and sometimes what would bubble up is repressed memories. And by the way, those memories can hold you back. So sometimes it's good to remember long enough to heal and then release it. So anyway, her What Will Set You Free would be mirrored with the inner child journey quite often to do those. But we could probably create all sorts of things.
Yes,
I've got everything from science and spirituality, quantum physics, light, to all sorts of different. I did, is it new thought if it's over 2,000 years old?
Good.
Because the truth is what we're teaching goes all the way back to the Upanishads in 4000 BC. So, this stuff is not new, but we, I think, need to make it relevant,
Amen.
active, and in everybody's heart and hands. That's what's going to heal.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, I feel like we have covered the majority of the questions here on Facebook. Reverend Steve, do you have a final question, or does the board have a final question before we kind of wrap up?
I just want to, in closing, from my part, Dr. Raz, thank you for being here. I have never felt better about our church, and have seen some really high times and some difficult times, but I've never felt better about our church, and I'm excited about the possibility of your being here.
Cool.
I would have to say, I really hope it's a probability.
Well, it is in my book, so all you got to do is say yes. I've already said yes, so I'm ready for that invitation.
Good.
As they say in human design, I'm ready to jump in.
Bless you.
Well, and I know that that the Board of Trustees is looking to make a decision quickly. As you mentioned, Dr. Raz, we're looking at July 5th. And so you will be getting an email in your inbox. It'll have a quick little, basically one question survey to let the board know what your feedback is. So please look for that. It'll also be on our website and in our app. Frank, did you have any final comment?
Like to, I'll stand up here again,
Yeah,
yes.
thank you.
I'll stand up again, and is the mic working? Yes. So I wanted to make sure that we address that piece. Thank you, Tammy.
You're welcome.
We are looking to make a decision quickly and sincerely, truly want everybody's input so that we feel we can move forward with confidence. I do want to express thanks so much for you, for coming down, for saying yes to that calling, for the support of your wife. And I feel the same way for Reverend Steve, too, for taking that time and coming down, and for Mary saying yes. It is about saying yes. And so I'm just so grateful, and I, too, feel that excitement about the potential for the future. So thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Frank.
Dr. Raz, any final comment for our congregation before we sign off?
You know, this is a beautiful place. It's a gem. I said that in emails. I'm saying it now. The possibilities are incredible here at Austin Unity. And it's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful time. I think we are prepared for such a time as this. So it may take courage and vision, but I think we can step into, on the shoulders of Reverend Steve's decade here, or 12 years, whatever it was, 100 years. But Ron Scott, I remember meeting him. And that's the way spiritual communities evolve. When Dr. Roger and I stepped down from Mile High Church, there were some people that were concerned. Will this stay the vibrant community it is? There may be some of you that feel that way today. And what I want you to know is the people in this room, the people in this spiritual community, Reverend Steve and I just got to know you. And I'm all for it. This needs to be a place that is the strength that it feels it is.
Yes.
So thank you. I'm glad you love my ties. And I'm glad you liked my sense of humor. I was glad there was people in the room that could hear it.
Yeah.
But I would be delighted to see all of you back because I know that's the next step. So we will heal together.
Amen.
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 Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a great week.
So it is.